The porch that rebuilt two hearts. The first time I climbed the sagging steps of my widowed neighbor's porch, I thought I was there for a quick repair job. I had no idea I was about to unearth years of quiet loneliness, a promise sealed by grief, and one offhand joke that would end up reshaping two lives that had both stopped expecting much from the future. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness pries open a door that heartbreak sealed shut long ago. And what's waiting on the other side can turn into the start of something entirely new. If you believe kindness still matters, that hope can grow again after loss, and that forgiveness and second chances are real, go ahead and like this video. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from, share this with someone who could use a little encouragement, and subscribe if you want more stories like this one. My name is Nathan Brooks, and this all took place in a sleepy little neighborhood just outside Franklin, Tennessee. I'd lived on Maple Ridge Drive for almost 12 years, mostly keeping to myself since my divorce. I worked as a carpenter, spent my days patching up other people's houses, and my evenings coming home to one that never quite felt lived in. Across the street was Grace Mitchell. Her husband, Samuel, had died suddenly a little under 3 years before, and ever since, her once bright farmhouse had seemed to grow old right alongside her grief. The flower beds went bare. The porch paint started to flake. The wind chimes tangled up and went silent because nobody thought to fix them. Everyone on the street cared about Grace, but sorrow has a way of building walls nobody can see. One Saturday, I noticed her porch dipping at one corner. A support beam had rotted clean through after a hard rain, and I knew it wouldn't hold up through another storm. So I grabbed my toolbox and walked over, half expecting her to wave me off politely. Instead, she opened the door with a tired smile, the kind that looked like it hadn't gotten much practice lately, and thanked me so genuinely that I felt almost sheepish for offering something so simple. As I worked that afternoon, she talked and I listened. She volunteered at the church food pantry every Wednesday. She used to bake peach cobbler all the time, but hadn't touched the recipe since Samuel died. It had been his favorite. She said she didn't miss the holidays so much as she missed ordinary conversation. She missed laughing. The quiet in her house, she told me, had gotten louder than anything outside it. One repair led to another. Loose railings, chipped steps, a shutter hanging by one hinge, flower boxes that needed rebuilding from scratch. Every afternoon, Grace brought out a pitcher of lemonade, no matter how many times I told her it wasn't necessary. Bit by bit, the old farmhouse seemed to wake back up. Flowers returned along the walkway. Curtains opened. Music drifted out through the windows again. Neighbors started slowing their cars just to see the change. Then one afternoon, as I drove the last nail into a railing, Grace laughed, really laughed for the first time since I'd met her. She looked at the finished porch, grinned, and said I'd basically earned squatter's rights at this point, so maybe she should just give me the guest room and save herself the trouble next time something broke. She laughed it off right after, almost apologizing for the joke. But neither of us laughed again for a few seconds after that. The words just sat there, heavier than either of us expected, not because we took them literally, but because they'd accidentally said something true out loud. We weren't afraid of being alone. We were afraid of staying lonely forever. That night, I sat at home and couldn't stop thinking about how easy the last 2 weeks had felt. The stories, the quiet mornings, the coffee, the silences that never needed filling. I realized I hadn't actually looked forward to coming home in years, not until those afternoons on her porch. Over the months that followed, the friendship just kept growing, the way things do when you stop forcing them. We started going to church together, helping organize the neighborhood cleanup days, dropping off meals to older folks who couldn't cook for themselves anymore. Neither of us was trying to replace who we'd lost. We were just letting kindness lead somewhere neither of us had planned on. Grace eventually told me that after Samuel passed, she'd convinced herself that being happy again would somehow betray his memory, that surviving him meant carrying the sadness forever. And I admitted that after my divorce, I'd quietly given up on the idea that anyone would choose me again. Somewhere along the way, we both figured out that healing doesn't erase what came before. It just makes space for what comes next. Almost a year to the day after I fixed that porch, Grace handed me a small wooden plaque she'd carved herself. It read, "Some homes are repaired with lumber. Others are rebuilt with love." I didn't have words for that. Standing on the same porch that had brought us together, surrounded by flowers in bloom and neighbors laughing at the harvest picnic, I understood that the biggest repair I'd ever done in my life wasn't made with a hammer or a paintbrush. It happened quietly, inside two people who'd both nearly forgotten how to hope. Before I finish this one, I'd love to hear from you. Has a small act of kindness ever changed the direction of your life? Tell us about it in the comments. Someone reading today might need that story more than you think. The following spring, the neighbors gathered on that same porch again, but not for repairs this time. It was for a small family celebration, strung with white lights under the dogwood trees. Homemade pie, kids running through the yard, old friends smiling through happy tears, and a warmth no expensive party could ever fake. Grace told me later that the porch used to remind her of everything she'd lost. Now, every board reminds her of everything she found again. If this story meant something to you, if it reminded you that even the smallest kindness can turn into someone's biggest blessing, go ahead and like it, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more stories like this. Because sometimes, changing a life starts with nothing more than knocking on a neighbor's door and offering to fix a porch.